Hey everyone, True here, and today I am going to show you the latest updated tier list based on my collected February data. As always, we are gonna go through all the tier changes and then the top units in more detail, but first, let's take a look at the newest units. And first up, we have Storm, Jeanne, and her sister Michaela. And do they really need introduction at this point? She is everywhere, and that for a very good reason. I mean, we have Storm Jeanne, which is really kind of the improved version of Dark Jeanne because she can actually stun, she's targeted, not so random. And then the Survivor's Judgment, obviously, a clear improvement over the Survivor's Fury. All in all, already really good, but where the real kicker comes in is in the way she works with her sister Michaela, who is actually being summoned via a vengeance passive this time. So Storm Jeanne doesn't even need to die. Instead, Storm Jeanne will come in whenever an ally dies, and when she comes in, then she is a 100% guard that can't be killed until she can get her turn, and that usually takes around 90 time units, so that's quite a long time for an indestructible guard, and especially one that can appear again and again. Obviously, only once in the whole battle that there's one copy of Storm Michaela, but as soon as she dies again and Storm Jeanne still survives, she can be resummoned again, and at the same time Storm Michaela can of course summon Storm Jeanne, and the way she does it is also improved because this time she can actually reset other units with entry passives in that way, or some units that possibly are stunned to death from your team, and so they get back to the place, and Storm Michaela actually keeps on living even after summoning with the Holy Revival, and then both of them are on the field again. We have Storm Jeanne with the Survival Stun again, possibly for her after the Survival, and then the time drain rate from Storm Michaela also becomes very interesting, or if not that, then you also have the Purify heal, which is very helpful in for your other units as well. So all that being said, she is going to one of the top tiers. We are going through the top units in detail later, and she's also being joined by Storm Ludmilla, who came out pretty much in parallel to Storm Jeanne and Storm Michaela, and in the direct comparison she may struggle a bit, but actually obviously also a very strong skill set. She has that kind of gear shift that makes her very fast, and on the other hand also that kind of spirit producing with the charges, and then she also has this very nice commander skill which actually gives the turn to one of your units that has very high TU, something that is very relevant now, especially with the release of Light Anya, but also in general with that kind of stun meta becoming more and more relevant, because I mean even Storm Michaela has that kind of stun entry, and Storm Jeanne is stunning, and then we also have Lancelot, one of the newer units that is stunning a lot, so a lot of stun going around, so something that actually gives the turn is pretty nice. I mean, she has the stun all heal pretty much, but yeah, in general she's more of a very strong support. I think especially gonna be interesting in the top teams, but where she exactly lands in the tier list, into one of the top tiers for sure, but let's talk more about that later. And then we have the two new light units. I mean, technically you can see four people here on the pictures, but yeah, it's Apollo and Artemis, and then we have Light Anya. And while Apollo and Artemis are more into this kind of burn and stealth unit, they have a few drawbacks, and they are actually too new right now for me to tier them reliably. Right now they are kind of on the cusp between A and S tier, but let's see where they land in the next edition, and the same is true for Light Anya, who has actually been released after I finished collecting the data. But as I said in my review of Light Anya, I mean, she is a 100% guard. She can kind of counter, not quite, but she is a bit, taking the heat off the stuns on your DPS. And so yeah, I do still expect her to land in one of the top tiers. Now we go through the tier changes and we start at the bottom, and we have a few units that are actually dropping to 0% usage, so they are dropping from the E tier to the F tier, and that is unfortunately Bahamut, the Poison Dragon, Light Reset, this kind of stun support unit. Also Norza, unfortunately he can't profit from the stun meta, he's just too far removed at this point. And then we also have Fire Mysha or Infernal Mysha, who is also struggling quite a lot. On the plus side, we do have 2 units going from F to E tier, and that is Storm Reset, so she can, just profit a little bit from the emerging stun meta. And Water Alira, still a very interesting sleep unit with that Nightmare Drain that heals her to 100% and doesn't wake up the target. We are not finished with the E tier yet. We see a few more drops from the D tier, and that is unfortunately true for Dark Callen, who is this kind of poison unit, still, conditionally good, but just not widely appealing in the current meta. Reyna drops as well, Earth Reyna, and that deservedly so. She is just not really good. The only thing that is kind of in her favor right now is being of the Earth element. Unfortunately, Artemisia also drops, and I still would say that she's probably the strongest off-banner unit that you can possibly get right now. I really like the combination with Storm Jeanne and her, because she has the entry with the Thundering entry and with the Spirit Plus entry, and so letting Storm Michaela reset that kind of entry is really, really powerful for your team. And plus she can't do that many things wrong, because she, if she gets the turn, she's just purifying or doing a pain spirit or doing maybe an overheal, which isn't ideal, but just overall a really solid supporter that I think I'll be using quite a while longer in my team, even though I already have some level 200 fully awakened units benched. And also dropping a bit is Altarion. I mean, he does have the pain stun, random still going for him, but I mean, with all these new stun units, there is really, really better units to be able to push off some great stuns. And so Altarion now in the E tier, still nice features from this guy, but overall we are talking about small differences here. In the D tier, we don't have anyone joining from below. However, we do see 3 units drop, and one of them, unfortunately, is Earth Theo. And yeah, I mean, he can be quite annoying. He has this healing pulse going for him, but yeah, he was probably just released a little bit too late to make a big impact. That said, I still think he can be quite annoying on the battlefield. So D tier is probably undervaluing him a bit. And then we also have Fire Ray, who is a fire unit, obviously a burn unit, and she is decent, but fire and burn are just having a really tough time right now. And then we also have one of the older units, Light Jeanne, going from C to D tier now. I mean, she was kind of the first unit that has this 2-in-1 gimmick, and back when she was released, now I think 2.5 years ago, she did change the meta, as did Dark Jeanne over 1 year after her, and now Storm Jeanne after them. The only Jeanne that didn't really change the meta is Water Jeanne. But yeah, nevertheless, Light Jeanne is the weakest of the 4, and unfortunately has the potential to mess up your team composition a bit, because of the summoning of Michelle kind of banishing one of your units. Now onto the C tier, and we also see 3 changes here, and this one actually gets a joiner from the D tier, and that is Merlin, and she may profit, on the one hand from the stun meta, on the other hand from this kind of resettable entry passive that kind of time thief entry that she has is kind of nice to be abused as well. But yeah, still only C tier, which, you know, compared to someone like Storm Relosha, who is such an old unit already, but still keeping up in the A tier, is still a bit disappointing. But all in all, can't go wrong with Merlin as an entry unit. And in the other direction, we see one of the former absolute stars of Evertale 2.0, that was Fire Hibiki. She really had a great skill set for the start of that auto Evertale era, with that kind of crisis drain setup, with the speedy and punchy attack, burn armor being helpful as well, and then obviously the crisis focus. So a lot of things that are going well for her, but now she is no longer relevant. One of the former glorious burn units, one of the very few now in the C tier, and joining her is Light Mysha, probably the lowest ranked Hold Ground Plus unit, just because she can pretty much screw over your team by helping the enemy. Other than that, she can be quite annoying actually, because she can, you know, whenever she goes under 25%, even if she already used it, she can use her Spirit Heart, kind of healing back to 100%, and so she can stay alive for quite a while, to say the very least. But yeah, her Vigor Launcher is just kind of screwed up by the AI, and then her Double Survivor's Fury is quite nice, and, you know, obviously against Storm Jeanne setup could help, but all in all, she's just too far removed from being able to be used universally. The rest of the B tier actually stays the same. There's no changes to the B tier itself, except, you know, losing 2 members. As a rule of thumb, I would recommend not pulling for any units below B tier for any other reason than fellowships. And then we are already at the A tier, and we see 2 units joining that A tier, and that is on the one hand Storm Ossia, another Hold Ground Plus unit like Light Mysha. She still has this kind of pseudo guard helpfulness about her, but it just gets harder and harder for her to stay relevant, because she can only use the flip stun random once, and she only uses it if she has 1 HP, so this is problematic for any kind of healing. And on the other hand, and I think that might be one of the reasons why she has fallen quite a bit in comparison, especially to many other stun storm units, is that this kind of Hold Ground Plus, while it means that she can't be defeated, it also means that the attention goes to your other units on the battlefield. And with the kind of Storm Jeanne meta that we see right now, and some other units as well, this is actually potentially problematic, and you would rather have her just make room for another unit, or potentially Storm Michaela coming in, or some other vengeance skill activating. Joining as well, and it is hard to see, is Gawain, another Hold Ground Plus unit. And yeah, she really is a bit screwed over by her release date, kind of in the middle of these strong storm units that are being released. I mean, before her we had the release of Lancelot, after her we had the release of Storm Jeanne and Storm Ludmilla, and her in the middle with the water elemental disadvantage has a hard time. She can still strike pretty hard, and there are some teams that are utilizing her well. Unfortunately, she's just not that universally great for any team, let's put it like this, but she can do a lot of good work regardless. I mean, we have 15% usage right now, and that is why she is dropping to the A tier. However, A tier still good, as I always say. But before we get to the absolute top units, there's also some positive news, and that is for Haku, who is rejoining the S tier. It was already kind of weird that she dropped to A tier last time, but now she's back in the S tier. She is a great supporter. She has some drawbacks, but the same is true for Light Mirai, and she can do a lot of good stuff, considering that we are in the kind of stun meta, so kind of producing the spirit for your team, and on the other hand giving the turn, possibly just being very fast at what she does helps her a lot already, and then hopefully she doesn't get taken out by a stealth strike and instead revives again at the end of the battle to help you yet again. So Haku back in the top 20, but now for the top 15 we see these 15 units. And first up, we just mentioned her, we have Light Mirai. She goes to the SS tier, still a great support, still the gift turn, and especially that kind of passive spirit production and heal whenever a unit gets a turn, at least until it runs out. And then she still has the stun revenge, which hopefully keeps her alive just a bit longer, even though stealth strike skills will not have a struggle with her, and especially Lancelot, who kind of ignores the stun revenge because she will get the turn again if she successfully kills Light Mirai. But all that said, still used by 78% of the top teams, and that is enough for her to stay in the SS tier for now. And then we have also Sun Wukong, who still is waiting for her second banner. I mean, she has the Stealthy Vengeance, which is just really good, and also great survivability because of that kind of charge, hold ground mechanic. Holding her a bit back is that she's a single striker unit, but honestly a really good unit, and the same is true for another Storm unit, and the Storm Ludmilla, who is also going to the SS tier for now. Just a really great supporter, but also someone who can dish out very, very strong damage, and especially with Light Anya, as I mentioned before, her relevance may actually rise further. Then we have Mizuchi with the counter skin and the hold ground, still something to be reckoned with, especially in times where poison and burn are not really relevant in the meta, but she is losing a bit of relevance. I'm still saying she's probably the best unit to put in your 20th spot in your arena battalion, so I'll leave it at that. And then we have the highest ranking fire unit, Bright Astrid, 100% guard. And what is especially interesting during the kind of meta we currently see is that whenever she is burning, she is actually not able to be stunned, and that is actually very helpful against the likes of maybe, you know, Lancelot or Storm Michaela or other units that are kind of really banking on the fact that they can stun their target and then do whatever they want with them, with the Royal Swift Slash and with the kind of time-driven raid and some other nice features. So Bright Astrid still quite relevant in today's meta with a usage rate of 71%. And now we get into the top 10, and we start off with Callen, who also goes into the SS tier. She has the Hold Ground Plus, and she also suffered a lot. I mean, there's a common pattern here with the Hold Ground Plus units, I think. But all in all, still really, really good unit. She can kind of disrupt the enemy team, kind of taking out a guard and making the enemy team wide open for your DPS, for example, or also kind of producing spirits. So in a combination with Lancelot, for example, whenever Lancelot gets a kill, she will also gain spirit from the spirit loot from Callen. So yeah, still a top 10 unit, but just on the edge of it. And then we also have Storm Antares on number 9. Really kind of impressive that she's still holding on to the top 10 spot after being released 2 years ago. So that is really some great stuff from Storm Antares. She has the survival stun skin, which is still something that current meta teams run into sometimes. She has the Thunderheart and sometimes the counter to actually use it, and so there's still quite a few good things going for her. And then we have Earth Anya, who is profiting from the current Storm meta, which means her element is an advantage, especially because she is a guard. So as a 100% guard, she can take in a lot of damage from Storm units that are really gonna act kind of weaker against her. And so this is quite nice. Also, still this kind of random poison skin is pretty alright, because it will hamper some of the stealth attacks. And another poison unit that we have already mentioned before is number 6, and that is number 7, and that is Dark Jeanne. Also going to the SS tier. She no longer has the glory of the prior days, but still, as long as you keep her away from stealth, defeating her, she is still very potent. She was number 1 once for a reason, and now keeps the 7th position at 78% usage. But now we make a little jump. There's nearly a million true power difference between number 6 and number 7. And number 6 is Water Snow White. With the counter skin, with that kind of healing stealth that she can immediately apply, she's still really interesting. She has the Deadly Sleep passive, which goes in her favor still. But of course, you have to consider that she is also struggling. In this kind of current Storm meta, she is still holding up very well. I have to say she has 82% usage in the very top teams. But yeah, no longer top 5. Another water unit is still top 5, and that is Water Bright Ludmilla. Still the highest rated 100% guard. She has the Shield of Eldine that she can put down whenever she gets the turn with 2 Spirit and hasn't used it already, and that makes her basically an indestructible guard for 100 time units, and that is quite nice. It also heals your team, you know, gives armor, etc, etc. This is not only a plus, of course, but you know, there's just no way around her basically. 99% of the teams are using her. That's still the highest usage of any unit in the top teams. And so even 1.5 years after her release, Bright Ludmilla is still relevant. And this is kind of a testament to how durable 100% guards remain even as the meta changes. And then on number 4 we have Storm Elmina. She was always helped a lot by the AI, but now we get more and more kind of stealth ignoring attacks and at the same time kind of stealth attacks, and both of them are something that is a danger to her. Obviously Earth Mysha has always been a danger to her, but now there's just more and more and more danger coming in. She is still number 4 for a reason, but that is only the 3rd strongest Storm unit right now, and the only counter against all these, or the only elemental counter, strong elemental counter unit against all these super strong Storm units that we are seeing is Earth Mysha, and she's actually dropping to the 3rd place right now. 95% usage though, and that for a good reason. As I said, what can you do? She is really a unit that still has at least the potential, you know, when she gets the turn and gets off a really good hit, to actually take out Storm Jeanne and Storm Michaela in the same attack, kind of closing the cycle of them reviving each other all the time. And number 2 is Lancelot, up 1 rank compared to last time. I'm actually a bit surprised, to be honest, to see her that high, but she has the instant stuns, she has the counter skin, kind of region. With the deadly momentum, she can pretty much immediately gain back 100% HP if she's on a roll. And so yeah, it makes sense actually to see her at number 2, but the number 1 spot is reserved for Storm Jeanne and Storm Michaela. And I already said it at the beginning of the video, all the kind of positives about her, and this is really a unit that changed the meta like few other units before, immediately kind of rising to the number 1 spot. That is something that we see very rarely in my SSR world rankings, and she's actually the first newly released unit at the number 1 spot in over a year. And all the things that I said in this video, kind of the reason why in my beginner's guide video I actually recommended to pull for Storm Jeanne, Lancelot or Earth Mysha first, and they are the top 3 right now in the SSR world rankings, kind of dominating everything else. Let's see if Light Anya can change the dynamics here, and of course we always see some new units, so stay tuned for the next edition. So there we have it, the new tier list from February 2023, based on the data of a lot of different top servers from Japan, the rest of Asia, Americas and Europe. I hope you enjoyed this video. and I apologize for my voice in this video that might still sound a bit sickly because I'm just coming off a sickness. But don't forget to like and subscribe to become a true carrot and stay updated on everything around Evertale. Thanks to my subscribers for keeping me going, and as always, thanks for watching.